Hi, this is Tim from ChiroUp, and we've done more than 300 blogs, and I'll have to tell you this is one of the most exciting blogs that I think that we'll do. It's a quick review of what our team has been working on for the past 8 months, ChiroUp version 2.0. This is not an exercise program. This is a clinical and business success system that allows you to have the best practice with the best outcomes and giving you more time. Let's take a quick preview. One thing that you'll notice is you'll come into the new dashboard. The dashboard is going to be including a news feed, so you won't have to wait for articles to come out in our blog or in journals. We're going to put those into your news feed on a daily basis. You're also going to see the stats that matter most. Now, this is junk data in this account, but you'll get the idea. How many surveys have been completed by your patients? What's their likelihood to refer? Your net promoter score and their 30-day average improvement. You also have those stats in graphic form as far as what is the patient satisfaction, what are your MD relationships, how many initial reports have you prescribed, how many release reports, and how many referrals have you received from that. One great feature is you're going to see on the final version a green boost button that gives you a checklist of the items that you can complete in order to boost these statistics with ChiroUp resources. You'll get to see your potential income and how to maximize that in an efficient way. You'll also get to see our blog like you're reading now and Google reviews. These will be automatically pulled up from your account. Obviously, this one is a 5-star for Dr. Steele, so we know it's fake data. But one thing that's not fake is how quick it's going to be to prescribe reports. You'll click the Prescribe Reports button and simply either search for an existing patient. So this is Joe Sample that we'll be looking for. Joe Sample now has an account. It knows if it's a prior patient, their email, their phone number, if you entered that, date of birth, and their age and gender. We'll be able to import this information from EHRs at some point in the very near future. You'll be able to enter it in now, or it'll pull any existing data from your prior ChiroUp account. Now, let's watch how fast it is to prescribe a report for an existing patient. We simply choose the region, and we'll say that Joe has a cervical segmental joint restriction, and from that point, I'm done. I can print an email, and let's look at what happens here. If I like what the report said and didn't need to make any changes, the first thing that comes up is a report branded to my clinic that goes to that patient's primary care physician with my diagnosis, treatment plan, and goals. The other thing that Joe will get is an emailed report, again, branded to my clinic with his description of his problem, the description of what I'm going to do to solve that problem, his treatment plan, his ADL advice that sometimes I don't have time to relay, and his exercises. The other thing that's helpful is I can customize any component of this. So let's kind of go back and dissect it. Let's say that Joe referred his wife Sally in. So now we've got Sally Sample, and Sally's going to come in. She's not a patient yet, so we create a new patient this time. It already knows that we typed in sample, so it doesn't make you do that twice. We try to eliminate as many clicks as possible. We'll put in my email for Sally's email, and really that's the only information that I would need if I want to email the report. We'll save Sally Sample in the database, and again, we'll go back and we'll choose a condition. We'll say that she has a cervical segmental joint restriction. We'll close that, but let's say that Sally also has a little bit of some tennis elbow, and so we're going to give her lateral epicondylopathy and incorporate that as well. Now, anything that we want to change about this report, we're able to. If we want to take out a treatment, maybe we're not going to perform modalities for this patient, but we want to add in acupuncture, we can do that. If we want to do the same thing for advice on daily living, maybe Sally rides a bicycle, let's drop in that we're going to teach her how to set up her bicycle as well. And as far as the exercises go, maybe we don't like one of those exercises, or maybe we want to add one of our own exercises to this process. We want to have her do directional preference sitting, so we can close that and add that in so that now Sally is going to do directional preference sitting as well. Maybe we want to move these exercises around, that she's going to move the cervical retractions to phase 2, and we're going to do more sets of the deep neck flexion exercise. We can do that right from the database to shift it around, add our notes, or customize that exercise now. The other thing that comes up is a pre-populated in-office visit and treatment goals, and these are branded to your clinic. You can choose the numbers that go in here. So these are my defaults. I'm going to change that to 3 times a week for 2 weeks, but I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and make a step down. Then we're going to treat her 1 time a week for 2 weeks. We also set the goals. Maybe Sally's going to be 50% better And we can expand those goals if I want to include things like I want to know what her initial VAS was for her cervical segmental joint restriction. And since she's 50% better, that automatically drops to 4. Her NDI was a 40, and since we're going to make it 50%, it knows to drop to 20. And for her elbow, her pain was only a 6, and it's now going to be a 3. Maybe this patient was referred by her primary care physician, so we can add that. We're going to choose the primary care physician, we save it, and now we're ready to deliver that report. If I want to save it for later to maybe deliver it tomorrow, I now have that option. If I just want to print it, I can just email it or print an email. After we launch the initial version, you're also going to have the ability to send this to the patient's app. So we're going to take it one step at a time to make sure that it works for you. But let's go ahead and print and email this one to Sally Sample. And again, what happens is this report is going to be produced for the patient. It's going to give us the initial report for that patient's primary care physician that now includes their VAS scores and our goals, as well as their disability indices. It also has a description of the patient's conditions. It has a description of what we're going to do for that patient, our treatment goals, our ADLs, the links to their exercises, and each of their exercises. So we can see that we can modify each of those components to produce a much more customized report. The way that you can change your presets are 2 ways. Number one, you'll now know what account you're in. You can belong to multiple accounts. And you'll also know that you can go into your clinic and set up your clinic. If you're the clinic admin, you can set up your clinic parameters. So we have our social media feeds that go in here. They'll be linked onto all of your reports. We can change the color scheme that we'd want for our patients to see on our reports. So this is going to be the color of our reports. We can put our logo in. But what's really unique, we can also add and take away users, so we can see all of the users in our clinic to add them and give them different privileges of staff, provider, or administrative privileges so that they can access only the components they need. We can also then say for our personal account, here's our preferences, that I want to be able to show a custom message for that report, that I want to generate healthcare provider reports or be able to export that to a PDF immediately. Default to creating exercise plans as opposed to condition reports. We can set our goals and change those goals. We can set our initial visit schedule or even have step-down visits that then automatically default for that when we save those. So now when I go into report preferences, those parameters will pop up as soon as I create a patient. So if we go back into Sally Sample's patient, now if I only want to create exercises for Joe Sample, I click exercises, and at this point I can just pull up a single exercise for that patient. I just want to teach this patient to be able to perform the active arch exercise, and at that point in time I could ship out the active arch exercise or email it to him. If I also wanted to include an ADL, I could do that. Or if I want to dump in a protocol for the ADLs and exercises for, say, a carpal tunnel syndrome, then we can put that in as well very quickly. And it now knows what ADLs and exercises would be typically used, and I can sort through them and deliver just that to the patient. We think that that's been a whole lot quicker to be able to choose your preferences and be able to customize that. The other thing that you're going to like is in the patient reports is we have a patient data. We now have a patient database. And in that patient database, we can take a look at our sample patients. So we look for Joe Sample, and in Joe Sample's report, the patient that we used earlier, we know Joe's email, we know his mobile phone number, we can choose a language because ChiroUp will be multilingual in the very near future. We know that he's a male, when he was born, who his chiropractic physician is, and who his primary health care physician is. If Joe comes in and says, Dr. Bertelsmann, I feel a lot better, I can send Joe a Google review link that will say, Joe, could you share your feelings on Google or on Health Grades, whatever account it may be. I can also see all the reports that I've prescribed for Joe. So we see what we did today, that we delivered a report on his cervical segmental joint restriction. If I want to create an MD release report for that patient, I can drop that in and that'll auto-populate. Click the release report, it will know the healthcare provider. In the final version, we'll say Joe that was treated 8 times and he is 90% better. And watch this, we now generate the content for that, and anything that I want to modify about this letter, I can do right here, and then I can either print it or save that to deliver later. If we print it, it's going to pop it up for me, and again, brand it to my clinic, that information that I've customized for the patient. So quick ways to access all of that data. We think that we're going to be able to help save you a lot of time. One of the things that you'll like is that patients can now track their exercise history from their app or from their Stretch demo site, which has been renamed to HealthCom. We'll also be able to give you access to what they responded on their 30-day surveys, and they can even give you daily pain scores if you choose for that process. The other thing that you'll like is the clinical skills. That this is the Sharpen My Clinical Skills tab that you're used to on version 1. All of the condition references are still there if we want to see what the current standard of care is for Achilles tendinopathy. We can take the quick gray box, which is now a green box. All of the icons will be in here by the time that you're using it. You can pull up a video of any one of those exercises, management tools, or evaluations. We've also subdivided that 2-page condition reference into subsets, so that maybe you want to read the whole thing, you can expand it all and take a look at the whole thing, but maybe you're only looking for what's the current management or what's the diagnostics and what imaging should I do. So we've subdivided it by sections. Maybe you only want to see what's the ICD-10 codes for this diagnosis. The other thing that you'll like is our references are now all Vancouver 6 format and hyperlinked, so we can bring that up and see the reference right away. That'll save you some time when you're searching for references. If you go into the clinical evaluations, we've retaped all of the orthopedic tests. They're all now HD videos, and it's all going to look like this, where we have the video and an explanation. Maybe we don't have a test in. You can add a new item to any component of ChiroUp now, or modify that item. Same thing for treatment techniques that we can pull up. Maybe we want to see, how do I perform IASTM of the thumb for de Quervain's. We have a video of that with the anatomy drawn in and the description. And again, you can add your own if you'd like to do that. The other thing that you'll be able to customize are the exercises and the conditions. So if you have an exercise that you'd like to change, that we're going to change the way retractions are performed in a supine position, we now no longer have to go to the Customize tab, which used to be up on the top right. We can go right into that exercise, hit Customize, and now if I'm an admin, I have the ability to either customize it for my whole clinic or customize it just for myself. So if I wanted to trickle down to all the providers in the clinic, I'd choose this version. If I'm only going to change my own version, I'll do that. I change any verbiage I want. I can change any sets or reps that I want. If I want to save that as a new option, I can do that, or just overwrite the existing option, I can do that. So editing those things has become much more expedient. Same thing for the ADL advice. Maybe I want to know, how do I get out of a chair? And I'm able to edit any of the verbiage in here if I just hit the Customize tab. So I think that's going to save a lot of time. The practice resources that we have are enhancing from where they've been. You'll still have access to all of those marketing campaigns that you've had before. So if you want to know, how do I market to medical physicians, or how do I market to attorneys, we've got the webinar, we've got all of the components, and then we've got the description of how to do that. I think that you're also going to like our forms library. The forms library is now searchable, so if I'm looking for something that has to do with an MD, now I can type in MD and I come up with everything that has MD, including TMD, but it's a lot more searchable library. We also have a healthcare provider database. So now all of the primary care physicians in your area are organized. You can search by one, you can create new ones, and this is going to allow you to market to those primary care physicians much more easily. Last thing is that you'll see your clinical profile, and in your clinical profile, again, junk data in this account, but you'll get to see what is your overall patient satisfaction, patient's likelihood to refer, net promoter scores, average improvement, number of visits, and you'll be able to compare that to the ChiroUp averages for those numbers. The other thing that you'll be able to do if you're a clinic administrator is compare all of the providers in your clinic. So if you hit clinic comparison, now what's going to happen is you're going to see a side-by-side comparison of all the providers within your clinic. So that's going to give you better access to those tools. And finally, the last thing that you'll see is the Help tab. And in the Help tab, we have a new FAQ page that is specific to version 2. So you'll be able to find answers through a quick search. You'll also be able to still email us or message us. We'll have walkthroughs for every component of the new program, so that it'll walk you through the first time that you use it. It'll walk each of your users through the first time they use it. We have tutorial videos that are going to be available for every topic, and most importantly, we have a support department who's going to be able to answer your questions, and we're here for you. We'll have extended hours. We'll have all hands on deck, so we're happy to give you a personal walkthrough. We think that the system is incredibly intuitive, and hopefully it won't require much, but we're here for any questions that you have, and most importantly, to say thank you. There's no way that we could have built this system without you and without the the input that you've given us, that our beta testers are currently using it now. We're making the last tweaks, and within 2 weeks this is going to be in your hands. And we really hope that it does help you produce the best outcomes, to have the best product, to give you more time. And the great news is this new platform is only the start for some really exciting things. So thanks for being a supporter. If you have questions, hit us up at support@chiroup.com, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. Thanks for watching.